All right. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another day of SaberSim's DFS office hours. Today is Thursday, December 5th of 2024. And looking ahead here, we have a 7-game NBA main slate tonight. We have Thursday night football between the Packers and the Lions. Then we have a 9-game NHL slate. Golf teed off earlier this morning as well. So it should be a fun day of DFS. For those of you who are new here, welcome. My name is Andrew. I'm one of the coaches over here at SaberSim. This is a show where we go over how to use the SaberSim app, answer any and all DFS related questions. Get your questions in one of 3 ways here. First off, send us an email, support@sabersim.com. Second, post it live in the YouTube chat. Third way, post it in the office hours channel in our Discord server. If you're not in our Discord and want to get access to that channel, there is a link in the description of this video. You also get access to our similar channels, individual sport channels, and you get access to the rest of the SaberSim team. Just can't say enough good things about the Discord. But with that said, we do this show Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, and we do this show on Saturdays at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. So tune in and get your questions answered. But with that said, let's get SaberSim pulled up. We did have one question that came in before the show in the Discord. After that, we will either do a slate demo or answer questions as they continue to come in live. So first question, if I create a filter that removes all dupes greater than 1 and then autofill, will SaberSim remove the lineup only if duped more than 1 time in each specific contest? Or will it remove the lineup if duped more than once in any contest? For example, when I use the filter to indirect fill and sort by a specific contest ROI, the filter removes the lineup if it has a dupe more than 1 in any contest. Okay, so good question here. This goes back to how this goes back to how direct fill and autofill work differently. Okay, so good example. Where could we find a good example of this? So I don't have a great example of this, but I think we can maybe do something to figure it out. So let's go to tonight's showdown. I'm playing one showdown contest tonight like I normally do, but we can mess around with this. So I have this one showdown, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and create some manual contest sims for other showdowns. And this one should actually be MME. You know what? We could probably do this with 2. I think 2 is a fine example here. But let's just do 3 just for fun. All right, so we have 3 contest sims, right? And we have 3 different sets of field lineups. This is the important part. Medium stakes MME, flagship MME, low stakes 20 max. So then I go to my build. Make my 2 adjustments, 2 projections, and then I kick this off. Really quickly, while this is building, Jimmy asked, for NFL Showdown, is there a way to make sure lineups are correlated post or pre-build? So I'm not 100% sure what your criteria is for correlated, right? There's a couple different things you can do here. One is you can go into the settings and just increase the correlation slider to increase the impact of correlation and make sure your lineups are more correlated. The other thing to do would be to use rules like, hey, I come into the rules and then I say, I use a group rule and I say, if at least 1, and then maybe I do like quarterback, captain, then use at least 1 on the same team in the flex, and then maybe I say like receiver or something, right? So rules can be a way of guaranteeing correlation in your lineup. So I would either mess around with the rules or I would try increasing the correlation slider in the settings. All right. RB1 Smitty, I did respond to you in the Discord specifically. So if you want to read that response in the thread, let me know. But if you have any more questions, hit me up there. All right. So let's get back to this question here. So we're in direct fill. And what we're discussing is like a dupes filter, right? So the question was like, I'm trying to filter out, remove lineups duped more than one time in a specific contest. So the important part here, right, is when you go to your fill, or we got to run our contest sims, right? So let's run these 3 contest sims. But remember that everything in direct fill gets averaged if you're using target ROI. So if you're using target ROI or a target metric, whether that be target sorting metric, target filter, it's always going to be averaged, right? So the contest sims have run. Let's use lineup 1 as an example. So here I'll see if I go down, I have 3 contests, right? And okay, so this is a little bit interesting, right? I'm going to explain this one way, even though it's not working exactly this one way. And the reason for that is this. Right now, I'm sorted by target ROI. So I have one real contest in my set, right? I come into the drop down, there's one contest. Notice here that this lineup in the low stakes 20 max is duped 3 times. In the flagship MME, it's duped 3 times. But in the average of selected contests, it shows 0, even though there's these dupes. That's because these contests are not actually contests. They're just manual contest sims, right? But I think I can get my point across. If I go in, if these were actual contests, then it would be 3 dupes plus 3 dupes plus 0. So that'd be 6 divided by 3. So my average dupes would be 2 here, right? So if I go in direct fill and then go and create a filter that says show lineups with target contest dupes greater than, let's say greater than 1, right? This lineup, regardless of the one contest with 0 dupes, is going to be filtered out because the average dupes of this contest, the average dupes of this lineup across the 3 contests is 2, right? Now, if I was in autofill instead of direct fill and I saved this lineup would be viable for the one contest with 0 dupes. That's because filters get applied contest by contest in autofill. So I think what you're running into here is, Brandon, I just saw your comment here. I will definitely get to this. I will get to it. So I think the point here is that to remember, even in direct fill, your filters are getting averaged across all of your contest sims. And then in autofill, they're happening contest by contest. So I hope that answers your question. I think that is what you were referring to. So let me know if there's any more follow-up on that, but happy to circle back as needed. All right. I do owe Brandon a response here, so let me make sure I get this one. All right. Brandon said, do you mind explaining your post-contest ROI process? Okay, this is a good question. I actually haven't had time this week to go back and study some of my lineups from the weekend. So I would actually like to do that, which we could do together here on stream. So why don't we do this? This is a 2 birds, 1 stone type of deal here. All right. So I want to go back to the weekend. And I am almost positive I only played showdowns on DK. So let's go see what we played. Yeah. So I played showdowns on DK. And then I played classic slates on FanDuel. So we have contest flashback here for DK. So I'm going to roll through all my showdowns. So typically what I'll do, right, is a couple things. First off, I don't expect to be positive sim ROI in every contest that I play, because there's a little bit of variance with like lineups getting duped and stuff. But what I'm mostly trying to figure out, I mean, if I'm positive ROI in all of them, like that's awesome. That's great, right? I'm trying to be positive ROI in like mostly like 80% of them is like a good number for me. And if I'm noticing like, hey, you know, a lot of my contests I'm positive sim ROI, then I feel like pretty comfortable, right? So for showdowns, I only play like 5 to 10 lineups most of the time, and I just play the one contest. So this is like the approach I've been taking all year. I've talked about it pretty extensively. I'm not a good MMEer, so I try and just build a handful of lineups that I think are good. So then what my process looks like is going in here, clicking on a contest, going over to users, always setting entries greater than or equal to the number of entries I had, which in this case would be 5, sorting by sim ROI and seeing where I'm at on this list, right? So, okay, I am, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th on this list, right? That's good. I'm positive, right? I mean, there's a little bit of room for improvement, but if I'm in like the top, 10, 15 sim ROIers, generally, I think that's like a good place to be. So I would be pretty happy with my lineups here and be like, okay, good enough there. Let's keep going, because my process across all of these is going to be the same, right? So like, that's why it doesn't really bother me. Like when I randomly, grade out poorly for like one, it's like, but then I grade out good for like 4 other ones. It's like, okay, I use the same process across all of those. That's probably a little bit more noise than signal. So then I move to the next, right? It's like, okay, hey, greater than or equal to 5. Sort by sim ROI. Okay, positive 13%. That's good. A little high on the average dupes. This was like the early like flagship showdown. So this contest is like a little bit bigger, so it makes a little bit more sense why my average dupes are high. But 13%, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th on the list. Okay, like right in the same range as the last one. So I'm kind of like seeing where I'm falling. I'm like pretty happy with it so far. I'm trying to find one where I grade out poorly. And, you can always learn more when you do bad than when you do good. So let's keep going. Okay, so like this might be a decent one, right? Here I'm like a neutral ROI, like negative 0.7. So I was like, okay, what happened here? A little bit further down, right? So then now it's like starting to analyze this. It's like, okay, average salary was like good, a little high maybe. Average dupes of 2 seems good. Unique lineups 2 seems good. Under 5, 4 out of my 5 lineups were under 5 dupes, seems good. And then my sim average score is like 92.2, which like also seems good. So I'm not 100% sure why this is bad. So then what I would do is I would like, okay, let's go and like actually look at my lineups and then see which ones graded out bad. So this first one, negative 6.5, duped 5 times. Okay, like, hey, maybe it's related to that. This seems like the one that was duped a lot. This one duped once, only gave up like a little bit of projected score. I'm actually surprised this lineup didn't do good. Okay, this one sacrifices like more projection and is duped 3 times. I could definitely see why this one's bad. This one's unique and grades out bad. So it seems like I'm just sacrificing too much projection on like a few of these. It seems like it's probably this Cooks play. This Cooks guy is in both of those lineups that are really, really poor. And then I have one lineup that's really good, right? Which kind of interesting, right? Like still a low projected score. But what I notice here is like these players are all projected better. So my guess here is that this lineup just has a higher ceiling than these other ones do. So my takeaway here would be it's not that it's bad to play 200 salary players, but maybe I should consider the upside of these players when determining when figuring out what players I want to allow into my player pool, right? Like if I get rid of these two negative 30% ROI lineups, the other ones are -6, -7, and 73, right? If I add those up, what is this? -14, -15 plus 73. So like 73 minus 15 is 58 divided by 3. Let's just say it's about 19. So you take away those two lineups, my other three lineups average out to like 19% sim ROI. So, and then there's a common denominator, in my opinion, at least, of like this one player being in here. And I'm not sure if like that is the culprit, but these lineups are lower projected and grade out bad. And then I have another low projected lineup that grades out good. So my guess, it's something along those lines. So that could be a takeaway, right? Like, hey, look for your 200 salary players to have more upside, right? Like that could be something I adjust here in the future. So that would be my takeaway here, right? Okay, cool. We found one where we graded out bad, and then we learned something from it, right? And then you just keep rolling. So that is like effectively what my post-contest sim ROI process looks like. It's like, hey, is there anything glaringly wrong here? No. Okay, let's dig a little bit deeper and find out what's wrong. And then let's, see how we did across all of these contest sims and kind of make a determination like, hey, are we comfortable with our process? Yes or no? And this one, I'm third highest. Like, that's really good, right? And, we don't have to do them all, but that's what it will look like. All right. Hope that helps. All right. Let's get back to where we were. All right. Getting SaberSim back up. Let's keep it rolling. Next one was from Roj. I'm still having trouble with the new late swap. I wish there was a video or something with the new changes. Could you possibly run down how you approach it if possible? So the bad news is there's like not an active slate right now, or at least I don't have one, right? Like I didn't play Monday to Thursday this week. So I can't display late swap here. What I would do is first go to our help docs and check out this video, late swap. This is updated. This is a brand new video with the changes from the recent update. So I would watch this, and then I would just keep communicating with our team about issues that you're running into. But start with this video, even as a refresher, and let us know, like, hey, I watched the video. Can you let me know about XYZ or something like that? All right. Follow up from Jimmy. Sorry, what I meant is if a particular quarterback is being used, a certain player who is highly correlated gets input in the lineups. I say that because certain players are highly correlated with each other. Okay, then I would definitely use rules here. So like, let's say we're talking about, Jordan Love, and we go pull up his correlations. Or let's pull up a receiver, right? Let's look at Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's like, okay, when I play Amon-Ra captain, I definitely want Goff in the flex. So then what I would do is I would go to rules. I would go to add new rule. And then I would go to group manual, and I would change use to if. Say if at least one, then at least one. So then in the primary, you go and you put Amon-Ra. Okay, click save. You got to click over so the green box highlights the secondary, and then click the pencil. And then you say if Amon-Ra, then Goff. And then your rule, after you click save, looks like this. If at least Amon-Ra in the captain, then must use Goff in the flex. So a rule like this would work. So to be highly specific like that, you're going to have to write some rules, which is totally okay. All right. Good stuff there. Brandon said, thanks, bro. You are welcome. Thanks for bringing that back to my attention. All right. Next question. With the new build released yesterday on late swap, I was having issues with using unique rank. I was getting 0 lineups and 0 contests. I had to use rank and unique and min unique of 0. Am I doing it wrong? I'm not 100% sure if you're doing it wrong or not. Honestly, the best thing that you guys can do is go to the right corner, click report a problem, let us know what you're experiencing. When you do it this way, it gives us a lot more detail about what's going on the back end and allows us to figure out like, hey, is there a bug here? Is something happening that shouldn't be? Or is things working correctly and we just need to explain it a little bit better, right? So when you guys do that, a lot of this like troubleshooting stuff is really, really hard for me on stream like this. It takes like some time to figure out what's going on and really look at it in detail. So when you guys do that, that helps us out a ton. And, we want you guys to understand how to use it, how it works. And that is the best path that we have that I know of. All right. Next question. Some chatter in the NFL Discord today about not maxing the bigger flagship 150 maxes due to the fact you have to have a lineup take top 10 just to break even. Can you speak on this generally? Yeah, absolutely. So two things on this. So number one is it is always okay to enter less than the maximum number of lineups allowed in a contest. And the reason for that is because if I have 150 lineups, in theory, what you should do is you should enter your best lineup first, and then your second lineup is your second best. So it is in theory a little bit worse than your first lineup. So every lineup after your first is a little worse, right? Why do you enter 150? Well, the more entries in the contest you assume, given that your entries are on average better than the fields, you're going to expedite the time it takes for you to realize your equity, right? We were doing a single entry. We were talking about single entry yesterday, and somebody was talking about hand building single entry lineups. It's like, okay, if you're playing a single entry and it's 500 entries and you're twice as good as everyone else, right? It's very hard to be twice as good as everyone else. Your mathematical probability of winning is still 1 out of 250, right? Well, now take that edge and allow users to take up 3% of the entries in a contest, right? Which is typically what the sites allow. 150 max, it's like, hey, you can have like 3% of the total entries in this contest, right? Well, now you're just expediting that, right? You're trying to get that 250 and you're trying to make it less and less. And hopefully, you realize your equity very, very fast. That's why people max out contests. But it is okay if like, hey, I have, I am only going to enter my 10 best lineups because it makes sense for me, for my bankroll, for the amount I want to wager, things like that. Like that is fine. I've said this a few times, but when I came in second place in the early only flagship on DK a couple weeks back for 20K, I only had 10 entries in that contest, right? It was part of a portfolio of contests that I was playing. It was part of and then I play a bunch of classic slates, and I'm not, maxing everything on those slates. I'm entering little pieces across all of them and trying to get as much action as I can across all of those small slates, right? So I think it's always okay to enter less than the max, and I don't think you need to max to win. All right. Eddie said, is there really a need to filter out lineups with negative ROI while using autofill, since it's going to put in best lineup anyway? I noticed in some of the videos that step is omitted. Thanks. Good question. So I think it is a good safeguard to do. The more contests you're playing and the more min uniques you're using, the more likely it is that the builder has to go further down in the pool when it's filling your lineups, and especially if you're using unique rank, right? Because when you're using unique rank, a lineup can only be used one time, right? So that's a consideration to make. I like to do it just to make sure that some of those lineups don't slip in there, but that's usually because I'm playing like a lot of lineups and a lot of contests on most slates, at least classics. So you don't have to do it. The builder is always going to grade the lineups ROI highest to lowest. So in theory, it hopefully doesn't get there. But when you're playing a lot of lineups out of your pool and you're using high uniques and you're using unique rank, it is possible that you end up getting some negative ROI lineups. So just be cautious with that. But that is my reason for using it. All right. Rose said, will do. Appreciate it. I have a good idea on how to make my lineups pre-lock. If you have time, could you run down the steps you do making lineups, trying to double check if I'm doing it right? Yeah, absolutely. We could do a slate demo here for sure. Really quickly, check in office hours. So far, so good there. All right, cool. So let's say I'm building NBA lineups for tonight, right? So let's go over to NBA. So step one for me, always going to be going to the contest tab, importing my contest file, right? So go to upload entries. Before this step, you have to reserve the entries, right? Or submit lineups, whatever way you want to do it. So I would reserve the entries and then I would come in here and I would import the file, right? And it's important to make sure you're logged into the site that you're playing on the same browser that you're using. Once you import the file, your contest will load. And I just created a manual contest sim to mimic that. Okay, great, cool. Go to build lineups. Here, this opportunity to do any research, to look at things if you want to get into the nitty gritty. If you don't want to do that, that's fine. Come in here, make your 2 adjustments, 2 projections to unlock the build lineups button, and then kick off your lineups, right? So I'm going to just build 2,000 lineups for this demo, but I would recommend, building the maximum that your plan allows. So at this step, set up any rules, any filters, any adjustments to min or max exposures, to sliders, whatever you want to do, right? Upload custom projections, average the projections, save your lineup sets. There's a number of different things you could do that if you want to. There's nothing that says you have to do those things, but that is an opportunity to tinker in the process. I don't know, path to lineups. All right, so our lineups are just about finished here. Going to click run contest sim. Always run your contest sim first. The reason for that is because, I can come in here and I can look at the exposures, but these exposures are based on the sorting metric that I'm using right now, which is SaberScore. Well, when I run the contest sim and I get my ROI sorting metric, my exposures are going to change. So there's no reason to set up min or max exposure, start adjusting anything until you get to the sorting metric you want to use. So always, 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 first step after lineups are built, get to the sorting metric you want. Doesn't matter what plan you're on, what you're trying to do. If you want to use projected score, switch to projected. If you want to use percentile, switch to percentile. Doesn't matter. Always get to your sorting metric first. All right. So now that we have gotten to our sorting metric, that now we can start to analyze stuff and look at things, right? First thing I like to do is set up any filters that I want. So let's go and use the ROI greater than 0 one, since that's what we're talking about here. So I would just be going contest sims, target ROI. I got to use this manual one since I don't have a contest in here right now. I just have a manual contest sim. So setting that up trashes 985 lineups and leaves me with 1,076, which is totally fine. I have my average projection aggregate metric. I like to have an average ROI 1, 2. So I have these data points, right? These data points are important to me. All right, cool. So we're about ready to start making some adjustments here. And where I like to start is starting by increasing my min uniques. So I'm noting my average projection, average ROI, 287.0, 132.2. And I'm going to start moving my min uniques up, right? So 1 min unique to 3, average projection goes down 1 point, average ROI down about 16%. Seems okay to go a little bit further here, at least test the waters. Min uniques of 4 drops projection like another 3.5 points and ROI about another 20%. I'm inclined to go back to 3, but this is a good opportunity to look at the exposures and leverages that you're seeing between the different numbers and decide where you want to go. See, like me, like having 2x Anthony Gill at 42%, 2x Collins at 46%. I'm fine with it. I'm assuming that these guys are I'm assuming Wemby's out, and then I don't know why Gill is so high. I'm assuming it has something to do with Kyle Kuzma, Jordan Poole, something like that. So I can always go and do a little bit of research and like, hey, why am I getting to so much of these guys? Does it make sense, right? And I come into Washington, I filter for them. Oh, okay, there's like a number of injuries. Kispert's out. Kuzma's out. Kaishan George is out. Who is left on this team? Okay, Poole, he's like a guard. Sar and Valanciunas are bigs, right? You can see this by the position icon, right? I'm just a little bit more familiar with the teams in general, but we could always bring this over. Okay, so we're expecting Poole, Sar, Valanciunas, Brogdon to start. It looks like we're expecting Koulibaly to start too, but we're expecting Gill off the bench as well as like Carrington being like the first 2 off the bench, right? So, I think it's okay to like leave the exposure. If you wanted to manage your risk a little bit here too, I think that's fine. You're like, you know what? I don't want to have 90% exposure to a bench player who's like not guaranteed to start. I think that logic is like fine. So like maybe you come in here and you're like, hey, I would rather match exposure, right? So like I'm going to go and drop him down to 45%. So something I would do there if I was going to do that is I would go back to 1 min unique and I would say, hey, what does my starting projection and ROI look like when I've made this adjustment to one of my highest exposed players? And then I would start over, right? And you could even go and verify Collins. I'm assuming Wemby's out tonight. And he is. So like, I think Collins makes a ton of sense. He'll probably get a start. So then now I would start over, right? Okay, 1 min unique to 2. And projection ROI barely move. 3 uniques. Okay, it moves a little bit more. 3 seems okay now. Even 4 seems okay. We haven't sacrificed that much here. And then, you got to ask yourself like, hey, are you okay with what you're seeing? And my answer is like, yeah, I am pretty okay with my new exposures and stuff. I'm pretty comfortable with Collins here. Names after that, Doncic, Jokic, Vassell, right? Like I'm pretty okay being highly exposed to Luka and Jokic here, right? So after that, a lot of these leverages are a lot closer to their ownership and pretty flat, right? So we're taking a big stand on like 2 big name players, 1 backup center who's getting a start. This seems a lot more comfortable for me, right? So then once I'm all set, happy with what I'm seeing, click save, and I'd be ready to rock and roll. All right. Next question. Hi, Andrew. Do you always set your ownership to the contest you're playing or use the default? Good question. I think it's fine to adjust this, right? If you're like, hey, I'm primarily playing low stakes and I don't want to look at the flagship, come in here and change it, right? Go and settle on a contest that identifies with your portfolio the most, right? That would be a good thing to do. So I wouldn't mind lowering it. I typically don't. I probably just skip that step. I'm not saying that, it's optimal to not change it. I think it's probably better to look at a set of ownership projections that more accurately reflect the contest that you're going to be playing. So if I were to give any advice, I would say, you're probably more right in thinking about changing it, and I'm probably being lazy and I should probably do that. All right. Follow up here. Rose said, if you're using autofill, just switch to that tab and then sort to the contest and hit save. Okay. So first thing, when you switch to autofill, your mini uniques are going to carry over into the autofill column. So that would populate a mini unique of 4 in all of your contests. That's totally fine. My ROI filter would then apply on a contest by contest level once I click save. But yeah, I just need to switch over to autofill. And then I need to determine, hey, do I want to use unique rank or rank? Once I'm happy with that, if I'm using unique rank, I would make sure to sort the contests by prize pool descending. And then I would click save and I would be ready to rock and roll. So that's how that works. All right. Taking a peek in Discord. Looks like we're all caught up there. Looks like we're all caught up here in the YouTube chat. So appreciate you guys tuning in. I will be back tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, for our next office hours show, followed by our build review show at 5 p.m. Eastern. If you want to get signed up for that, let me drop your DK username in the office hours channel. Let me know what sport and slate you want me to review. Rose said, makes sense. Thanks. I like unique rank for sure. I'll take a look at that updated video. Right on. Awesome. But appreciate you guys tuning in. Good luck tonight in your contests. Until tomorrow, take care. Thanks. Bye.